Hi everyone, Nikki Buckaloo here at Buckaloo Realty Group. I'm going to talk on today's video a little bit about the challenges that couples face when contemplating moving to a retirement community. I can't tell you how many times over the last several years I've been asked, Nikki, how do I get my spouse to move? Well, that's a complicated question, right? And most of the time we laugh about it and I say, I know some great marriage counselors that I can introduce you to, but most of the time, here's what I find is it's women asking how they're going to get their husband to move. Now, it's not always true. There are situations where it's the other way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that women face because that seems to be more common. And then I'm going to talk about a couple that are more universal. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance on some things that you might be able to do to help with that situation. Can't solve the problem by any means, but I'm going to give you some suggestions on things to think about. So, first of all, women are tired of housework. And, I often talk with couples where the man says, I don't know what the problem is. This place is not that difficult to take care of. Well, that's because they're typically writing the check for the lawn guy and the pool person and the handyman to take care of the exterior maintenance. But the female in the household is doing all the inside chores. So they're doing laundry and making beds and grocery shopping and cooking meals every day and cleaning up, mopping, vacuuming, dusting, all of those things. And maybe they even are paying a housekeeper, but housekeepers don't generally prepare your meals and take care of your beds every day and do your laundry. So men have retired, but women have not. Now this gets even more difficult when one or the other of the spouses have a physical challenge like a surgery or an illness, or maybe some cognitive impairments. It just adds more work and more time to all of those tasks. So women will often say, I'm exhausted, I just can't do this anymore. And so I'm going to talk about one of the things you can do later in my video to maybe help with that a little bit. The next thing is money. Men tend to see that they've got this nest egg and they don't want to spend it on a retirement community. They don't see that as a good investment or a good expense. Oftentimes women will say, you know what, that's what we saved up for all these years. Let's use the money to make our life a little bit easier. But oftentimes, like I said, men don't see it that way. It's not always that way, men and women in that sense, but most often that's what I will hear. And then thirdly, I will tell you that peace of mind is what women are usually looking for in moving to a retirement community. Here's what I'll often be told. If something happens to him, I don't want to be left to deal with this house and all this stuff and a move on my own. If we're going to do it, I really want him to be here to help me with it and to do it with me. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is they're anticipating it being overwhelming to do on their own. And second, they would really like to be able to enjoy the next chapter of life with their spouse. Most of the time, this is not about them hoping that their spouse dies sooner than later. It's let's move to a retirement community, enjoy life together for as long as possible. So peace of mind, knowing that they have a place if something should happen to their significant other is really important. So I've picked on men a little bit. Here are at least two things that are unrelated to gender, and this can go either way. And the big one is caregiving responsibilities. When one spouse finds that they are the primary caregiver for the other spouse full-time, whether it's physically or cognitively or both, it can be a huge challenge to take care of a house, especially a big house or a big lot or a lot of lawn or a pool or water or trees, and take care of a spouse full-time. And it can absolutely wear on someone. In fact, there are some statistics out there that talk about how caregivers often die before the person that they're caring for because they are so overly stressed that it physically wears them out. The second thing is social activities. Often one spouse or the other is more social. And as we get older, a lot of times maybe we don't drive as often or we don't drive at night or during certain traffic periods and things like that just because our skills are not, we're not as trusting of our skills. And so what happens is those social butterflies end up not getting out and doing as much. Moving to a retirement community kind of has a built-in social component. And so they're excited about being able to walk down the hall and take part in some sort of a social engagement. The other person who's more of a homebody says, you know what, I don't mind staying here. I don't mind watching TV or reading a good book. And that makes it difficult on the spouse who likes to be more social. So a retirement community option can be good for them, but the other spouse just doesn't see it that way. So how do you deal with this? That's the big question, right? I've thought of a couple of things that have helped some couples that I've spoken with. So I'm going to give you those quick tips. Number one, communicate honestly and directly, right? If you are struggling, or if you're finding that you are looking for peace of mind, share that with your spouse. I can't tell you how many people I have sat at the table with and asked, have you told them how you feel about how hard this is for you? And they say no. And when they tell their spouse is literally surprised because they've not ever heard that before. So sometimes it's just about having an open, honest conversation about your fears, your concerns, and whatever's happening for you. If it's stress or worry, then share those things. The other thing that I would highly recommend is that you go ahead and start planning despite the fact that your spouse doesn't want to move. It's okay to start downsizing. It's okay to start purging things, and go ahead and just kind of start going through that process. You might even want to start coming to some seminars, going to some educational programs on the possibility of downsizing. Your spouse might get the hint and come on board with you, but again, still have those conversations if you haven't already. And then the third thing, tap into the support of others. If you're finding that it's challenging and your spouse doesn't want to move, call in the troops, right? Call in friends, family, neighbors, and ask them to come and help you with some of those things that are challenging, or hire someone to help you with those things. What's interesting is when your spouse sees that all of a sudden there are people there more often, they're going to wonder why that is, right? And having that conversation to say, you know what, look, I just can't do it anymore, so I'm going to have this person come and help me. It starts to become very evident that maybe a change needs to happen. Now, I make no guarantees. There are some people that are just adamant, they're not moving, they're staying put, in which case you're gonna have to overcome some of that yourself, and we're happy to help. We're here, we would love to see you, we'd love to do a conversation with you, and we're here to support you in whatever way we can. So I hope that's been helpful. Until next time, I'm Nikki Buckaloo. Make it a great day.